Okay, so I'm gonna start working on this Hamilton machine. This was previously serviced by one of my classmates. She said that the machine seemed to run pretty well, but she had issues getting it to do both straight, zigzag, and specialty stitches. A couple of things that I really love about this machine. I love this kind of atomic age design with the chrome. I think that it's very clean. There's very little damage. Even along the bed here where you normally see a ton of chipping, it looks really clean and good. Everything seems like it's in good condition. So it's just a matter of seeing if we can figure out how to make it do all of its stitches. So we're gonna just open it up and take a look at the insides and see what we've got going on. Now, like I said, it's already been cleaned and serviced, so it doesn't really need anything except for to figure out why it's not working. Currently it is set to pattern 1, zigzag 0, so this should be its straight, and then it's set to normal, and then we've got our reverse button, which does work, and then stitch length set to 2.5, which is pretty normal. All right, coming up here to the top, this knob on the top is the buttonhole, so it's set at M. When we turn the hand wheel, you can see I could probably do with a little oil, but the action is fine. There's our feed cam down under there, if you look in here, and it's looking like it's in good shape. The worm gear is actually underneath this mechanism, so you can kind of see it there. I don't know if I can get it lit up, but you can kind of see it down under there. The light cord is a little bit tight. There. Again, when I turn the hand wheel, we've got good action on the take-up lever. Everything is moving the way that it should. Very smooth action. The feed dogs move, the pressure sensor tightens. And you can see the pin there. Lift the feed dogs, it does what it's supposed to do and hits the pin. Why did you not want to focus, phone? See, there's our pin. There's our feed dogs. It's the pin to release the tension. So that's what we want to see. So on the front of it, I don't really see anything jumping out at me as like this is what's wrong. So we're gonna have to do some more playing around to see what we get. So interestingly, currently I have it set at stitch 1, which is our zigzag options. I have it set to red, medium, and zigzag of 0, so the width should be straight. But when I turn the hand wheel, there's side-to-side action. So you see that side-to-side action. I'm not quite sure why it's doing that. Before I press the pedal, it is running well. I'm just not sure why it thinks it needs to zigzag. Okay, so I've taken the top off and the faceplate off of this Hamilton. There is a little bit of grime underneath here. I'll give it a good wipe down. Unfortunately, there was a crack in the face right here with the needle position section. And so that there's a little break there. I'll have to fix it with some glue. You can see right there. So we can get that fixed. Not a big deal, but I really wanted to take that plate off because I wanted to see what was going on in here. And you can see there's actually a fair amount of old oil in here. If you can kind of see that down behind this spring. So we'll get some of that excess out of there and get it cleaned up a little bit more. But I just wanted to be able to see exactly what was going on when we turned the hand wheel, and how all the pieces are functioning and fitting together. So we'll give it a good look. Okay, so I think I've discovered, if not the issue, one of the issues. So this is the stitch selector dial. This is one of the wheels, but behind here is the cam stack. You can kind of see it. There's our follower mechanism. So the follower slides up and down on this post, on this post here. And there's our follower mechanism. The follower mechanism is hooked to this mechanism here, which is hooked here, which connects to this dial, and this controls the width of the stitch. And this whole mechanism is frozen. So this pin where the follower sits is gunked up and not moving. This pin is not moving, and this entire mechanism should shift side to side, but it very, very barely moves. And I have to put a ton of force to get it to swing. So I think if I can get all of this whole train loosened up a little bit, that we should be able to get the stitch selector working. So we're going to give it a shot and see what we can manage. Okay, so I'm back with this Hamilton 301, and I have some good news to report. I've got this knob is now functioning. You can see, let me turn it to, so before this wheel was not turning at all, and was causing some issues, and I discovered that part of the issue is, well, this was all gunked up and jammed up, so I took the knob off. Of course, my phone was dead at the time, but I took the knob off, took out the mechanism inside the knob, let everything get cleaned out, soaked down. I used some pliers to move the mechanism and release some of the gunk. And now we've got good movement on the knob, and as I turn the knob, you can see the follower there move up the cam stack, and when it gets to the top, now it's at the very top of its mechanism. If I turn it, it pops back down to the first position. So got that working, and it's working really well. The problem now, this knob was also frozen, so this is the stitch width, and it has a little mechanism at the bottom of the knob that slides this, but it was not moving this finger. You can see I've been working at this all day and I can barely turn it with my hands. And so this here is supposed to mess with this to move that peg out of the way so that this dial will work. So I'm not exactly sure what adjustments need to be made to this part, but I know that first I've got to get this loosened up enough to where I can actually manipulate it. So it should be, when it's at the 1 position, this should be blocking. I think that this should be here, but as you turn it wider, it moves that out of the way to open up those stitches that need that width. I'm not sure, this is just my guess, so that's what I'm playing around with right now, is trying to figure out how these two dial mechanisms interact with each other. This is already a lot looser than it was yesterday. I could barely turn it even with the pliers. So now that I can give it a little turn, that's really good. So I've just got to figure out how these things play. And once I figure that out, I'll be good. So for now, as long as this notch does not have this little finger in it, you can select any stitch you want. And if I need that notch out of the way, I can just push this arm to that position, and that will open that up to allow me to select a different stitch. So I'm halfway there. So I did a little bit of reading, and I have one of the pages of the manual for this machine, and I know I was struggling with trying to figure out how to get this to release so that this knob was selectable. But when I read the manual page, it says that you have to turn this to 5 in order to change this stitch selection knob. So this opens that option up. So it's not actually a problem, that's a feature, not a bug. So given that, I think I'm ready to do a test sew. So I'm going to put some things back together. I'm not going to put this cover plate on yet, and I'm not going to put the top back on. I just want to see how the needle movement works and whether we can get some good stitches. And then I'll decide how much I need to put back together. All right, I'm ready for a test sew. I have this set to stitch width 0, and then I have this set to 1. So this should be a straight stitch if I have everything set correctly. We will see. And then I have the tension at normal here. This is a brand new needle. It's never been used before. And the thread is a thicker thread. I'm using just a test width. Okay, so it looks like we are getting a straight stitch. Actually, interesting. So let's try changing this to a different stitch. Actually, let me put it at stitch 1 and then just adjust it to the widest stitch length, which should produce a zigzag. mostly a straight stitch, and we're getting a zigzag. That's a good sign. Let me try one more type of straight stitch, though my stand here is falling down. Okay, so we're going to try to do some stitches. I am looking at the patterns here, and it looks like our zigzag, depending on the needle position, regular zig, maybe a wider zigzag and a blind stitch zigzag. So we'll try the different needle positions, and then I'm also going to try a straight stitch, which I think is M. So let me give that one a shot first. Okay, so there's position M. I didn't change the needle position. Let me change the needle position first. Okay. It is centered and it is straight. Wonderful. Let me turn it around. I'm going slow because I want to see the needle movement, but it is centered in the center position. This is position M, and it is producing nice straight stitches, well balanced, well formed, very wide, but I have it set to wide to long stitches. Now we'll try one of the other shapes. Let's try a zigzag in the left position. And that's going to be position 1. So we're going to change it to position 1. And we're going to change it back to our desired width. So we're going to do a width of 3. And that should be what we need. Just to demonstrate what I'm doing here. So this is the stitch selector that matches the automatic patterns there. And then the zigzag width 1 through 5, that's this tile here. And so this, if we loosen these two knobs, that releases this dial. And then you can, if you look under here, you see that little mechanism. So if you want it to stay in the 0 position, you want to lock it down in that position, and you just tighten these to lock it into that position. And that's going to be locked in the number 1 position. But then if you loosen them, you can say, I want to change this availability. So I want to change that width to there, and then you tighten this, and now it's in that position and it's got that much play. So I'm just kind of playing around with that and seeing what I can learn. It's not something that I've seen like that before. Okay, so let's see what this does. Okay, so that looks like a little blind stitch. Every couple of stitches it jogs over. Interesting. Let's try this with a shorter row. stitch length. Again, we're just messing with this to see what it does. So I'm going to tighten it up to where it is only on stitch width 3. I'm going to change it to the right needle position and stitch 1. Okay, that's giving us a nice zigzag. Let's try position 2. So this means I have to turn the knob and then lock that position in again. So this should be producing a shape that looks like this. And it does look like that's what it's given us. So it had some straight stitches and then some zigzags, and then it went back to straight. So, and with my stitch length set at 5, that makes sense. So let's turn it around and do that same stitch in the other direction. And just change the stitch width and see if that makes a difference. Yeah, so we can see that it is definitely making the stitch shape that we asked it to. That kind of like triangle shape. Again, the balance is really good and it's making the stitch we selected. So one thing that I have noticed is that when I'm running this stitch, the play that we've set into this position using these 2 dials, so the furthest position is 1, and then the furthest position on this side is 3. So now when it's stitching, that's how it determines how wide it's able to go. So watch. So you can see here. And that produces that stitch. All right, and it looks just as good on the back as it does on the front, so we're in good shape. Let's try one of the other shapes. Let's try the left and number 4, and so in order to do this, I have to turn this knob all the way to release that stitch. And then I have to turn this knob, so I need 2 hands. Okay. And yeah, we're getting that nice kind of boat or bridge shape, like I've got it set to. Now let's see if we can get it to go back to our straight stitch. And again, I'm just loosening up some of the knobs. So this should be a zigzag width of 0. So we don't want it to have any different. We're going to move the dial to M, which is our straight stitch. Needle position, we'll do left side. And we're getting a beautiful straight stitch. All right. And now let's just try same, but lengthening the stitch length. All right. Getting excellent stitches, so I think we're in good shape. So there are different lengths. So the first stitch is a 2. This one is a 4 at the top here. We have our little bridge shape. That was a position 4L. So we have a really nice 4L. We can see here I transitioned over from that position 2. So this was position 2R. And we got some nice stitches there. So yeah, machine is good. All set. And the stitches are really well balanced. So we can see the cream on this side with no pink. And we see the pink on this side with no cream. So we're good to go. Hamilton is ready to live again.